Today we're going to explore Disney's most contentious project to date, the live-action adaptation of Snow White. This film is not merely a reimagining of a beloved classic, it has evolved into a lightning rod for cultural debates and social issues. At the heart of this storm is Rachel Zegler, who was cast in the iconic role of Snow White. Her casting and subsequent comments have sparked controversy and criticism, raising a pressing question that lingers over the entire production. Will this film mark another milestone for Disney, or will it join the growing list of projects that have struggled to find financial and critical success? Disney's strategy of remaking its animated classics into live-action films has been a consistent focus for years, transforming well-known tales like The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin into updated spectacles. However, the adaptation of Snow White stands apart as one of their most ambitious and challenging undertakings. Unlike the straightforward remakes of the past, this project attempts to modernize a story deeply rooted in cultural and historical context, prompting polarizing reactions from both loyal fans and casual moviegoers. The critical question that looms over this entire affair is why Disney has continued to stand by Rachel Zegler amid such an overwhelming backlash. Some speculate that the decision is influenced by contractual obligations that leave little room for recasting or reshoots without significant financial loss. With each announcement surrounding the film, it seems Disney is walking a tightrope, attempting to appeal to a new generation while also honoring the legacy of their original films. When Rachel Zegler was announced as the new face of Snow White, what should have been a triumphant reveal for Disney quickly turned into a flashpoint of debate. Zegler, a Latina actress, was cast in a role traditionally associated with European folklore, a character whose origins lie in the Brothers Grimm's fairy tale, first published in 1812. This choice was met with resistance from some fans who argued that casting a Latina actress in a role that has historically been depicted as a pale-skinned, raven-haired princess alters the original story's essence. Critics claimed that such a move, while well-intentioned, might stray too far from the cultural context that shaped the character of Snow White. Despite the backlash, Disney stood firm in their decision, citing their commitment to diversity, representation, and inclusivity in their storytelling. The company argued that their intention was to create a version of Snow White that resonates with audiences today, a version that allows people of all backgrounds to see themselves reflected in the characters on screen. This approach aligns with Disney's broader mission to break down traditional barriers and reshape the narratives of its iconic stories to better reflect the diverse world we live in. Yet, this attempt at inclusivity has sparked heated debates among fans, some of whom feel that certain beloved characters should remain as they were originally conceived, to preserve the authenticity of their stories. Rachel Zegler's interviews, unfortunately, did little to quell the controversy. Her remarks about her portrayal of Snow White created a storm of reactions across social media. In one interview, she emphasized that her version of Snow White would not be a passive damsel waiting for rescue by a prince, but rather a strong, self-sufficient character who does not conform to outdated stereotypes. While some applauded this modern take as a refreshing update to the character, others were dismayed by the deviation from Snow White's classic attributes of kindness, gentleness, and innocence that have endeared her to audiences for generations. The controversy intensified when Zegler went further, labeling the prince's role as being similar to that of a stalker, a comment that shocked many. The backlash surrounding Zegler's remarks goes beyond simple character reinterpretation. It taps into a larger cultural conversation about the way stories are told and retold in a changing society. Many fans of the original Snow White argue that there is a certain magic and innocence to the character that should be preserved, a quality that speaks to universal themes of kindness, love, and overcoming adversity. Many fans who cherish the romantic elements of the original film. To those who love the 1937 animated classic, her remarks seem to undermine the foundational love story that has long been a hallmark of Disney's storytelling. For many, this modern critique felt not only out of place but also dismissive of the timeless qualities that have made the story of Snow White resonate across different generations. Zegler's criticism didn't stop there. She also described the original 1937 film as outdated and weird, a statement that many Disney enthusiasts found particularly jarring. For countless fans, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs isn't just a film, it's a piece of cinematic history, the first full-length animated feature ever produced, and a film that set the standard for animation as a respected art form. It marked the beginning of Disney's journey to becoming the animation powerhouse it is today. To dismiss this piece of history as simply outdated was seen as a slight to the legacy that built the very foundation on which Disney stands. As this situation continues to unfold, Disney finds itself in a precarious position. The company must tread carefully as they attempt to balance their brand's innovative spirit with the expectations of longtime fans who cherish their nostalgic memories of the original films. In an era where brands are increasingly scrutinized for their social and cultural impact, Disney's challenge is to remain relevant and progressive while still honoring its rich heritage that has defined generations. Others suggest that Disney genuinely believes in the direction they are taking with this film, trusting that this bold, modern reinterpretation will eventually resonate with audiences despite the current controversy. There's a lot riding on this new Snow White adaptation, not just in terms of box office revenue, but in how it will shape the perception of Disney's legacy going forward. If the film succeeds, it could set a precedent for how classic tales are retold in a way that aligns with modern values, potentially opening doors for even more inclusive reimaginings of beloved stories. However, if it fails, it might serve as a cautionary tale about the risks of straying too far from the core elements that made these stories cherished classics in the first place. Amid all this turmoil, Disney's resilience in sticking to their vision suggests a deeper commitment to redefining what their brand stands for in the 21st century. They are clearly intent on pushing boundaries, challenging norms, and reshaping their narratives to resonate with new generations who seek representation and inclusivity. This transformation reflects a broader cultural shift in the entertainment industry, where old narratives are being revisited with fresh perspectives and voices that aim to engage more diverse audiences. Yet, this pursuit of progressiveness is not without its pitfalls. With every step forward, Disney risks alienating a segment of their fan base that values tradition and continuity. The tension between innovation and nostalgia has never been more palpable than in this era of reboots and remakes. While some view Disney's new direction as a brave and necessary evolution, others see it as a departure from the magic that originally defined their films. The outcome of Snow White will likely have significant implications, not only for Disney but for the broader film industry as well. It could redefine what audiences expect from adaptations of classic tales and influence how other studios approach similar projects. If Rachel Zegler's portrayal of Snow White ultimately connects with viewers, it may signal a shift in how characters are depicted in modern cinema, breaking away from archetypes in favor of more dynamic, multidimensional portrayals. On the other hand, if the film does not meet expectations, it might reinforce the belief that some classics are best left as they are untouched and preserved in their original form. Regardless of the film's reception, the conversation around this adaptation of Snow White highlights the complexities of adapting beloved stories in an ever-evolving cultural landscape. It reveals the challenges of bridging the gap between traditional narratives and the modern desire for stories that reflect the world we live in today. As Disney navigates these stormy waters, one thing is certain: the success or failure of this film will shape the company's strategy for years to come, influencing how they continue to blend their storied past with the promise of an inclusive future. As Disney ventures deeper into this modern reimagining of Snow White, they find themselves in a precarious position, balancing innovation with tradition, progress with nostalgia. For Disney, the challenge lies not just in updating the narrative to fit contemporary values, but also in respecting the timeless elements that have made their films beloved across generations. It's a fine line to walk, especially with a story like Snow White, which has such deep roots in folklore and has been ingrained in popular culture for decades. Rachel Zegler's comments and the backlash they ignited have exposed a broader issue that Disney faces as they continue to evolve in the modern era. They worry that in an attempt to modernize the character, Disney might lose the essence that made Snow White a symbol of hope and resilience for generations of viewers. However, Disney's decision to modernize Snow White and focus on creating a more empowered version of the character is part of a broader shift that has been happening in storytelling over the past few decades. Audiences today are seeking out characters that reflect the complexities of the modern world, who are flawed, multidimensional, and not simply defined by their relationships with others. In many ways, the new Snow White aims to be more than just a character. She's being molded into a symbol of empowerment, someone who can inspire young audiences to see themselves as heroes of their own stories. Disney's determination to stand by Zegler despite the outcry also reflects a commitment to evolving their brand to be more inclusive and representative. In a world where diversity and representation have become central to the conversation around media and entertainment, Disney's choice to cast a Latina actress as Snow White can be seen as a bold move toward fostering inclusivity. This aligns with the company's recent efforts to diversify their characters, creating stories that resonate with a wider audience and challenge traditional archetypes that have long dominated fairy tales. But the question remains, how much can a classic tale be modernized before it loses its core identity? For some fans, the very concept of Snow White is tied to her innocence, her gentle demeanor, and her unwavering belief in goodness. Altering these elements to fit a contemporary mold risks alienating the audience that cherishes the story as a nostalgic relic of their childhood. The decision to reinterpret the story through a modern lens raises valid concerns about whether it can maintain its timeless charm or if it risks being too radically altered to be recognizable. Yet, it's important to acknowledge that every generation reinterprets stories to reflect its own values and ideals. Just as Disney's animated adaptations have transformed folklore into universally appealing tales, the live-action adaptations are similarly attempting to make these stories relevant for today's audience. Disney's modern approach to Snow White aims to reflect a society that values independence, strength, and the ability to define one's own destiny, qualities that resonate with today's viewers who seek role models that break free from traditional gender roles. Still, the controversy surrounding Zegler's comments on the prince's role and the original film's perceived weirdness has added another layer of complexity to this situation. For many longtime Disney fans, the prince's character is not merely a love interest but a figure that represents hope, love, and the fulfillment of dreams. By dismissing the prince as a stalker, or viewing the original film as outdated, there's a risk of diminishing the narrative's emotional impact, which is built upon the dreamlike romantic ideals that define fairy tales. This divide between modern reinterpretation and traditional storytelling highlights the evolving nature of entertainment. In a landscape where audiences are becoming increasingly vocal about representation and authenticity, companies like Disney must navigate these waters carefully. They are tasked with the responsibility of reimagining characters in ways that do not compromise their iconic legacy, while also making them relatable to new generations. For Disney, the stakes are incredibly high, as each adaptation is not merely a film, it's a reflection of their brand's identity and their ongoing legacy as pioneers in storytelling. Despite the criticisms, Disney's decision to move forward with Rachel Zegler in the lead role indicates a belief in the potential of this new approach to redefine what Snow White can be in the modern era. They seem to be betting on the idea that a stronger, more independent Snow White will resonate with contemporary audiences who are looking for more than just fairy tale endings. By standing by Zegler and her vision of the character, Disney is sending a message that they are willing to take risks, even if it means facing backlash from their most devoted fans. As we await the film's release, the debate around its success or failure remains heated. Will this bold move to reimagine a classic story as a narrative of empowerment and independence resonate with audiences? Original narratives and contemporary themes will be crucial to its future success. The company must navigate these turbulent waters carefully, mindful of both their longtime supporters and the new audiences they hope to attract. If the Snow White adaptation fails to connect with viewers, it could force Disney to reevaluate its current approach to storytelling and possibly reconsider its commitment to reimagining its classics. On the other hand, if the film succeeds, it might validate Disney's efforts to push the boundaries of its own legacy, proving that even the most cherished stories can be updated to reflect the values and diversity of a modern audience. Whatever the outcome, the stakes are clear: the success or failure of this project will significantly influence Disney's creative direction and its strategy for years to come. As the controversy unfolds and we analyze the implications of this high-stakes gamble, one thing is certain: Disney's approach to blending tradition with innovation will remain under the microscope. Whether they emerge as pioneers of a new storytelling era or face setbacks that force them to revert to their roots, the outcome of Snow White will be a defining moment in their legacy.